What's up, guys? Got a MSNBC short here to watch, so let's get to
As we
it.
begin the readout tonight, one day after Donald Trump got on a stage and called federal law enforcement vicious monsters, and the president
But when Black Lives Matter does it, it's all right.
of the United States the enemy of the people, we got a prime lesson in just how effective it is when a corrupt president is allowed to put so many judges on the bench. That's because a federal judge who Trump picked today did him a huge favor, to put it in Trumpian terms, on an investigation that could not be more critical to our national security. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon released her ruling today granting the request by Trump's legal team for a special master to review the material seized from Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort and residence to look for any privileged material. Now, while that process unfolds, the judge is blocking the Justice Department from continuing its investigation into Trump's theft and grossly negligent mishandling of classified documents. Now, not only has every single federal prosecutor and former Department of Justice lawyer that we have spoken to on this show said there was no need for a special master in this case, so did Trump's own former attorney.
Okay, what a special master does is it's a person elected by both sides to make sure that there's no bias taking place, that there's a fair treatment of the person. The integrity of the DOJ and FBI has clearly been called to attention. It's clearly shown bias towards the Democrats. It's clearly covering up for Hunter Biden. It's literally to ensure that he gets fair treatment. But that's corruption. That's mind-blowing.
Attorney General and fixer William Barr.
I think the whole idea of a special master is a bit of a red herring. What people are missing is that all the other documents taken, even if they claim to be executive privilege, either belong to the government because they're government records, even if they're classified, even if they're subject to executive privilege, they still belong to the government and go to the archives. If, in fact, he sort of stood over scores of boxes, not really knowing what was in them, and said, I hereby declassify everything in here, that would be such an abuse and show such recklessness that it's almost worse than taking the documents.
Now, what we
How?
know is that Donald Trump
How is it an abuse if he has the power to do it? It's literally his power. What's abuse of power is taking, say, our emergency oil reserves and selling it to a communist country. That's an abuse of power. Or how about using your knowledge of government contracts to buy stock in companies? That's an abuse of power. Or maybe flashing your platinum donor card as you're getting arrested, as Polly P's case.
admits that he took the documents. He admits that they were not only in a storage room in his completely insecure resort, but that they were also in his private office.
Completely insecure, so we're just going to ignore the Secret Service that's stationed there all the time. Okay. It's good to know that the Secret Service are worthless.
We know that some of these documents were classified, with markings putting them at the highest level of the most highly protected materials in the U.S. government. And among the materials seized were numerous envelopes marked classified that were completely empty. And yet,
Exactly.
despite all of that, this 41-year-old judge appointed by Trump in the
I remember when I was in the military, I had to smash computers and hard drives for almost a month straight and throw it in a hole to be burned because they had a secret sticker on them. 90% of it had never been opened, never been used. Literally hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment destroyed and burned because it had a secret sticker on it. Never used. So that means exactly nothing.
In the waning months of his presidency, has decided that Trump has the right to have the investigation of that crime halted. Leading up to this investigation, Harvard constitutional scholar Lawrence Tribe said this about the judge, quote, "She could either redeem herself by starting to act like a real federal judge, unaffected by the identity of the president who appointed her, or earn the condemnation of national security experts and legal mavens by botching the biggest case most judges ever touch in a lifetime and endangering the lives of our spies abroad," unquote. It now appears.
How is that going to endanger the lives of spies abroad? That makes no sense. By allowing Trump to have an unbiased person look over the documents that the FBI took and make sure that they didn't take anything that was covered by attorney-client privilege, that's going to affect our spies. It's crazy if you don't know what a special master is, how they can spin this to make it seem like a bad thing.
That she has chosen to do the latter. Perhaps it should not come as much of a surprise, though. She telegraphed last month that she was already inclined to rule in Trump's favor. This is, of course, what Trump has always had in mind for his appointed judges, for them to do his bidding. And MSNBC as MSNBC opinion columnist Dean Obadala writes, Trump himself encouraged Americans to think of federal judges as beholden to the presidents who appointed them. Remember, Trump has gone on the attack against judges appointed by President Obama as, quote, Obama judges. In 2016, he attacked a federal judge who was handling a lawsuit against his corrupt, fake Trump university, and even called for his recusal because he was, quote, an Obama pick, totally biased, hates Trump. He did the same in 2018 when a judge appointed by President Obama put a hold on his plan for refusing asylum applications from immigrants who crossed the border illegally. With Trump, he always looks at everything as my or mine. My generals, my Kevin, my classified documents, my judges.
Well,
apparently he's
the
got
president.
One. Joining me now, Hugo Lowell, congressional reporter for The Guardian, Elie Mystal, justice correspondent for The Nation, and Glenn Kirshner, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor. And Elie, I'm going right down the middle to you because I'm not a lawyer, you are. But even I know that if I went into a bank and robbed it, brought the money home, took it home, and then went and spent a bunch of it and bought a Birkin bag and a car and all sorts of things, and the feds came to take it, I couldn't then say, hold up. I'm gonna need you to get a special master, and they're gonna need to, go through all this stuff because that's my bag, and that's my car, and that's my money.
If you went and withdrew your money and went and did all that, and the FBI showed up, yeah, you can absolutely do that. But no, you robbed a bank.
How on earth could a judge who made it through law school think that Donald Trump can take the property of the government, the federal government, take it home, and then have to have a special master decide whether they can investigate him?
Because she's biased and corrupt. Like, I don't know what to tell everybody anymore. Like, I've been saying this since he took office. When you allow Republicans to control the courts, you get nothing. Trump judges do not believe in the rule of law. They do not believe in precedent. They do not believe in facts. They do not believe in logic. They just believe in whatever's going to help Donald Trump, and they've proven it again and again and again. So when
But that's the thing. When Donald Trump got into office, it was all Obama judges. And he's been under investigation non-stop for years. And everything they found has come to be false. There's been conspiracy after conspiracy. So it's kind of hard to believe anything, especially when a lot of it is being propagated by the FBI. Why would you trust anything they have to say? I used to respect the FBI. I used to look at them like the special forces of law enforcement, like the pinnacle of you know, if you go into law enforcement, you know, the FBI is the shit, you know, and now it's become an arm of the Democratic Party. They're weaponized, and the bias is so blatant. It's crazy. It really is.
Say that you cannot trust Trump judges. I don't know what more evidence you need for that fact, right? Like, look, the argument that he has executive privilege is so what the scientists would call stupid that it's difficult to explain it, right? Like the idea that, first of all, privilege goes to the current president. We only have one president at a time, so it's not Trump's privilege to have. But even if it was,
that's not true.
As you pointed out with Bill Barr, who believes that the executive of the United States is something closer to a king than a president, even Bill Barr says that if he had a privilege, that privilege still goes with the government, not with Trump. And so these documents belong in the archives. It'd be like if Trump's called for executive privilege over the plane and then parked the plane, Air Force One, at Mar-a-Lago. Can't do that. Even if it was his, we'd have the right to take it back. But when you allow Trump judges to infect the system, these are the kinds of decisions you get. And people, and this is my last point, people in the media.
Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying Trump did right. He shouldn't have stored, you know, documents that should have been held in the National Archives in his house. That's just, you know, that's not something he should have done. I don't agree with it, you know. Especially, you know, if there are laws in place that say that the president isn't allowed to do that, by all means. But Trump has been treated so unfairly for so long that it's hard to not feel like it's just another reason of them trying to take him down. Like, even if he is 100% dead to rights, guilty, there's been a non-stop smear campaign against Trump since the beginning. And the fact that he wants an unbiased third party to be that's elected by both sides, mind you, to review the documents that the FBI confiscated to determine whether or not they took documents that were covered by the attorney-client privilege it's crazy. They think that the judge is corrupt for granting that. I mean, if they were being investigated and they felt like the prosecutor was biased towards them, wouldn't they want a third party? You know, someone that they could pick, that the other side agrees on, to, you know, serve as intermediary. Like, it don't make sense to me that they're so upset that he wants an unbiased treatment. Like, they're so mad.
Stop pretending that these Trump judges are like the rest of the judicial system, right? They have to stop carrying water for them and start calling them out as they are. Corrupt, leave-behind gifts from the Trump administration to destroy the rule of law in America.
Just so quick, and I'm going to get my other guests in, but just stay with you for just a second, Ellie. Does it surprise you that her justification for saying that you're wrong about that and that he can claim executive privilege against the current president, that she cited Kavanaugh, one of his other judges, and said that, well, Kavanaugh says that he can do it. So apparently, according to her, he can take the Air Force One home, park it at Mar-a-Lago, and at least she and Kavanaugh would be like, it's an open question.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because, again, the argument is so stupid that she's got to reach for straws. Like, she's got to grab at whatever there is because there's no actual legal basis for her ruling. But even Kavanaugh, even the Kavanaugh opinion he cites, he said maybe. He didn't say definite. And so to go from Kavanaugh's maybe to like actually appointing a special master, remember the whole point here is to delay, right? So guess who gets to appoint the special master? She does, right? So that takes a lot of time for however long she wants to wait, or the department.
See, and that's the thing. They have to select a special master by Friday. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, you can just delay and delay and delay, and that's not true. That's not true at all. They have to select a special master by Friday. So the fact that, you know, the way they're spinning this is that it's all about trying to evade, you know, the legal system and not about fair treatment, it's laughable.
Of Justice can appeal, but if they appeal to the 11th Circuit, which is controlled by Republicans. So the 11th Circuit could then wait on that appeal for a long time. But even if the 11th Circuit like goes super quick, right, they could appeal that to the Supreme Court, which, as we already know, infected by Trump judges, and they could delay and delay and delay. And the whole idea here is not to get him off because they can't, because he's guilty, but it's to delay it to the point where they can get to another election, remove the current Department of Justice, get a...
Okay, just so you know, to anybody who's ever had to go to court before, it normally takes years for one court case. And that's with you trying to get it done. Your judge will delay it more than you ever will. It's really... You have the right to a fast and speedy trial. That is laughable. That is laughable. Anybody that's ever gotten in trouble, it knows what I'm talking about.
Pro-Trump, perhaps Trump himself, back in the White House. That's their game plan. And Eileen Cannon, Trump Judge Eileen Cannon, is playing right into that game plan.
Et voila. Let me bring you in, Glenn. Have you, as a former prosecutor, ever had an instance where you had a theft, where you had the product of the theft in the custody of law enforcement, and have a judge intervene and say, because when law enforcement went into that property and took the products of that theft, there were personal items mixed in with the items owned by someone else, the items that were stolen, that because there might have been a magazine that Trump subscribed to in that list of things, or some clothing that was Trump's that were literally thrown in the box with the classified materials.
But that's not what it was.
Have you ever heard of law enforcement being halted, saying you cannot investigate this person?
There's been plenty of cases that are thrown out whenever law enforcement goes in and seizes evidence that's not on the warrant. Yes, plenty of times. You don't have to be an expert for that. Like, that's so common.
Any further, has that ever happened in your career?
Not in 30 years of prosecuting cases in courts, both military and civilian. This is the kind of stuff that gets dealt with, if at all, in motions to suppress in the run-up to trial or in run-of-the-mill evidentiary rulings at trial. And I'll tell you, Joy, the most dire thing that this judge did, and you just put your finger on it, she ordered the government to stop criminally investigating Trump and company for the theft of national security information. You know what that means? First of all, the good news is DOJ said, look, we've already looked at all of it, and we are already, following investigative leads based on it. But here's where the problem comes in. Let's assume that based on their review of these documents that Donald Trump stole from the federal government and unlawfully concealed, even in violation of a subpoena at Mar-a-Lago. Let's assume that the federal prosecutors subpoenaed people to testify as a result of what they learned in those documents. And maybe those witnesses are scheduled to appear before the grand jury tomorrow and give really important sworn testimony about the crimes of Donald Trump. Judge Cannon just ordered the government to stop. Withdraw those subpoenas. You know what else? When we seize paper, documents as evidence in a criminal case, you know what we often do? We submit it for forensic testing. We look for latent fingerprints that help us identify a perpetrator We look for DNA, epithelial cells that slough off your skin. You leave them on documents. Those forensic tests of this evidence of crime that was found in Donald Trump's possession, those tests may be ongoing, and Judge Cannon just said, stop investigating Donald Trump. That, in my opinion, is judicial insanity.
Okay, let's get it straight. She said stop investigating until the special master has a chance to review the documents. They're only telling half the story. They only tell you this part of the story they want you to hear. Like, it's so crazy how you go from one news network to the other. Like, Fox is like super right-leaning, yeah, you know, but MSNBC is just so far biased. It's not even funny. At least on Fox, they'll usually have like at least one person on there that, you know, tries to, you know, stick up for Biden or something like that. But it's just, it's crazy. It's literally crazy. So, until next time, like and subscribe.